Welcome to A Pint with Seaniebee. This is Oscar week. Those of you who are interested in movie making will be delighted with my next guest. He is an Oscar nominee, one of very few Oscar nominees from Ireland, and his name is Michael Creagh. He was nominated for an Oscar in 2011 for his short film Crush, which was a unrequited love story about a small boy who fell in love with his school teacher. The young boy is played by Oren, Michael's son, and he's here to talk to us about his experience with this movie and other stuff as well. So welcome to the podcast, Michael Creagh.
Morning, Sean. Thank you very much. I'm very well.
You're from Belfast.
Originally from Belfast. I came to Dublin back in '96.
So talk a bit about that first, because we're similar vintage.
Yeah.
You're younger than me, I'd say. But what was it like growing up in Belfast during the Troubles?
It was a bit strange. You only realise now how strange it was. At the time, it was just your normality. Like, it was just the way things are. There was always a bit of a grimness to Belfast, but you don't realise until you're out of it just how unusual it was. And when you talk to people, when I moved to Dublin, people were constantly shocked by the things that we just took as normality. And as any northerner will tell you, they enjoy winding the baiting the southerners, exactly, because revenge for leaving us behind. Right?
So for my overseas listeners, Ireland has been under the yoke of the British Empire for 800 years, and in the early part of the last century, Britain left the south of Ireland to form its own new country, but retained the 6 counties of the north of Ireland. Northern Ireland to this day remains part of Great Britain, and is a big pawn at the moment in the whole Brexit discussions, because if Britain leaves the European Union, Northern Ireland will have to follow as being part of Britain, despite the fact that most people up there decided that they didn't want to do that. And we have a problem again with the border. We've had the IRA, which I'm sure people know about, the loyalist paramilitaries fighting for many years of my lifetime and Michael's, culminating in the agreement that caused peace. As I say, it's riddled with peace up there at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, peace was really only starting to kick in whenever I left. The Good Friday Agreement hadn't happened yet. As a child, as I was growing up in North Belfast, which was North Belfast is a bit of a patchwork between Republican and Loyalist communities. So there was a lot of tension, a lot of trouble around there. I grew up on the Crumlin Road, which was almost a bit of a frontier right down between these communities. There was a peace wall built down there. Simple things like my parents moved house because our family just kept getting bigger and bigger. There was, including my mum and dad, there's 10 of us, so we needed to move. So we moved a couple of 100 yards up the road to a bit of a bigger house. I couldn't walk down that road anymore to see the friends that I'd originally had in the street beside the first house, because there was a street in between that was trouble. It was
you get beaten up.
You get beaten up. You basically have to, you'd be stopped at that corner and asked, what were you? Were you Catholic or Protestant? What school did you go to? People are shocked when you describe that. But I suppose like anybody who grows up in a conflict area, they see it as their normality. We were walking under, there'd be a bomb scare nearly every day, every other day. We'd be evacuated from our house once in a while by the army. Bombs would go off in the distance and shatter the windows and things. As I say, only in retrospect do you think that wasn't quite normal, was it? That wasn't all that normal. I always thought that I got it easy, and any time I write about it, I'm always feeling a bit of a fraud. I always feel like I didn't really suffer. I didn't get shot. I didn't see anybody get. But I think you earn by just living there. You don't realise the insidious effects that it might have on you in your life. You do kind of earn a right to talk about it, and you earn a right to write about it, to tell the stories. And I think there's a lot of stories to be told.
I mean, there's some coming out. There's a great documentary, No Stone Unturned, which came out last year, which is receiving rave reviews. I mean, it's interesting. Michael comes from the north and I come from the south, and we grew up during the Troubles, but it was very remote for people living in Dublin. We were apathetic.
Perfect word.
And I mean, I would be a nationalist. I would be a nationalist who wouldn't believe in bombing the shit out of people out of our country. You know what I mean? But I do believe in a united Ireland, and I do believe maybe. I mean, I'm very surprised. One, the Troubles have stopped. I never thought they would in my lifetime.
Absolutely.
bowled over when you see the late Martin McGuinness and the late Ian
Ian
Paisley
Paisley,
shaking
yeah.
hands and being best mates. You're kind of going, huh?
Yeah.
But there was also, I think around September 11th, there was also this change of gears in terrorism. That kind of brought the world to a place where, you know, even if you were a Republican or loyalist terrorist, you'd be going, is it really worth it all? Really?
Yeah, it was. The Islamicists had buried the lead. It's kind of said that was lit. There you go, that's terrorism. And suddenly, in one day, they'd done what both the IRA and the UVF did over 30 years.
Yeah, the same number of people who died in the 9/11 attacks basically equals the entire amount of fatalities in the Northern Ireland Troubles since 1960, late 60s to that time.
Everything did change from 9/11, like the world changed, America changed, the North changed, you know, back in the 50s. Yes, there was lots of bigotry and lots of petty fighting and whatnot, but when the Troubles began proper, Northern Ireland changed into something very dark and very quite hateful in many ways. And I think we're seeing that on a worldwide level now. And the country is now full of survivors. I mean, I always maintain that the North and its population have PTSD. A population-wide PTSD is we're all kind of in a bit of a stupor about what went on, and we're like, what just happened there? And how did it stop? So, as you say, how did it stop so easily? How did it stop so well, not easily, but how did it stop so quickly? And what was it all for? You look at it more from a thoughtful point of view, or I don't want to be wanky, but an artistic point of view. You're looking at. I've always been fascinated by it. I've always been. My mother would tell you that I was darkly fascinated. You know, I always seemed to be on the. I used to get in trouble in college because I tended to do a lot of art troubles. You know.
Artwork was a huge part of it.
Yeah,
you know,
and
graffiti, it was a world.
And back then, when you did it, it was considered a cliche. It was like, oh, somebody doing troubles again, troubles again. And I'm going, but this is us. This is our story. This is very much who we are. And it would lead you into trouble because people would think you were trying to be provocative.
Which is what art should do.
Exactly, yeah. And I wasn't. I was just fascinated by the stories and by my actual political attitudes swing wildly from one day to the next. I couldn't really say I'm particularly nailed into one political viewpoint. I can usually see both sides. My parents would have called us maybe mildly nationalist kind of.
Okay. And where did you stand in the family pecking order? Were you the youngest?
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest.
So I just observed everything. I just took everything on board and just watched everybody else.
And did your siblings leave the North as well, or are they still there?
They're all mostly there. Some of them went back and forward. Like my brother Kieran, he's a priest, and he lived in Africa for quite a while. Probably about 10 years of his life was spent over there. Now he went to Africa to be shot. He was always in Ardoyne, which is a pretty Republican area of Belfast. He's a real extrovert, outgoing, always involved in things. He was involved in charity and the disabled and all sorts. Never a hair on his head was harmed. We had a few close shaves, but nothing ever happened. Then we moved to Africa. He was in Botswana first, but then he was in South Africa later on, Pretoria, a township there. And he was there for several years and built a hospice and all sorts. And then during our robbery one night, he got shot very badly and was fighting for his life. God. And it was a very close run thing. We didn't think that he was going to make it, and we thought how ironic that he leaves Belfast to go.
There's a lot of similarities with what was happening at. I presume this was around the time Mandela was being released, was it?
No, a bit later than that. This is less than a decade ago. This was 2007, I think. So
I was very surprised in South Africa when they finally eliminated apartheid that there wasn't just a mass genocide of the whites.
Yeah, well, I think Mandela was a big part of that, and it's people like that you need, and I think those are the people we're sort of missing at the minute. Is those people? It's horrible, all this extremism at the minute. It has to be really, really lefty, or have to be really, really righty. Ridiculous. And where are all the diplomats gone? I know they're there. I know there's people like the Canadian president and whatnot, but they seem to be second fiddle at the minute.
Politics is being driven, I think, by what I call regressive leftism, which is basically just, it's almost so left it's right.
Yeah.
And it's
oh, well, they do. They go around in a circle and meet.
Do. You hear people, I mean, the Canadian psychologist Jordan Peterson had a huge furore with an interview he had about gender pay. But, these guys, or Sam Harris, these guys are out there and they're just trying to say truth. And by saying truth, they sometimes say things that people take offence or outrage with and kill them. No, sorry, not kill them literally, but social media. Slaughter them. Social media.
Well, social media has a lot to answer for. And 140 characters, the more extreme you are, the more aggressive, the more sweary you can be, the more likes you might get, or the more retweets, or the more attention you get. And I think social media it almost looks like the start of the last century. It looks, how long before people are starting to make themselves little uniforms and, gather on street corners and walk up and down. And you're going, is it because a lot of the people around now haven't suffered, or they haven't experienced the real thing? They haven't.
It's just like road rage. I think Twitter is like being in a car.
It is. It's a motorway.
Yeah, you see people in a car. They'd never be as rude or obnoxious as that. But if you went up to them, they go, sorry,
if you got all Twitter people together in a room and they had to face each other and look at each other's eyes, they'd be like, "Oh, how you doing? Oh, sorry, but I didn't really mean to say that." And go, because that's what humans do, and that's why humans still exist. We don't still exist because of the violent extremists, the no compromise type. It's always been the diplomats that have really kept humanity together. They're the ones that bring the wars to an end. They're the ones that some days need Churchill and other days need Mandela.
But the idea of compromise is vanishing. The idea of just being able to hear the other person, or empathy. And compassion and stuff like this is just dying, and no better man to lead it all than Donald Trump,
Exactly. It's like there's no discussion, no room for discussion. Northern Ireland is, I think it's going through pretty much the same process as Dublin went through, as the South went through. I think it is healing. I think it's healing very quickly. I think if you go up there now, it's a very different atmosphere.
I haven't been up since I got back to
it's when I came south initially, I just wanted to be away. Apart from visiting family, I'd never want to go back. And I had a real love for Dublin. I had a real romantic draw towards Dublin. I just saw it as being the poetry city, the city of literature and Guinness.
Which again, we're losing a bit.
Yeah, but Dublin just had this thing in my head for right since childhood. It was always Belfast is your grey kind of shipyard, shipbuilding. That now has its own romance to it, but I was just
the Titanic Museum and stuff like that.
And I think once you're away from it for a while, it does make you more inclined to look at it favourably. When you're living there, or especially living there during the Troubles, you tend not to be able to look at it with any. But
so when you came down from Belfast to Dublin, you were in your, like you said, in your 20s. So you did art college here, did you?
Early to mid 20s. Right. I was in art college in Belfast. I always had this yearning to just go away, even if it was just 100 miles down the road to Dublin.
And you were an artist, were you?
Artist writer. I was kind of, I could never decide which was the true calling. And I remember my English teacher being really disappointed in me when I said I was going to go to art college. From quite an early age, I'd hit upon advertising as a way to go. Hey, you get to write and you get to do pictures, and and you just get to come up with ideas, and I think that was because of a British TV show, possibly the BBC, called Campaign.
I remember it was dreadful.
If I saw it now, I'd go, what the hell was that? But at the time, I was like, wow, it never happened. Where did that?
It was like a cheesy version of Mad Men.
Yeah, set in the 80s. Yeah. It would actually be a brilliant thing to remake. An 80s London advertising would be a brilliant.
I'd have to watch an episode
new show,
how bad
because
it was.
It's bound to be as crass and misogynistic as 60s Madison Avenue. It's bound to be. It would be great. But I was only about maybe 15 when I saw that show, and I went, that's it, that's what to do. That's something to do. So I actually was quite lucky in that I had an idea of what I wanted to do after college. So I got a portfolio together and pretty much concentrated my efforts on Dublin. Dede's, Ronnie Troughton and Dede's gave me a break, and that was my first job, and it was brilliant.
Did you have any temptation to go further afield?
I did. I'd always imagine maybe go to London, or because London, it was always built up as that's where it's at, that's where
London,
we should, that's where we should be.
Meccas.
Yeah, well, we didn't even think in terms of London was so strong back then. London was everything. The American advertising almost looked a bit cheesy by comparison to the class of the London stuff, which I don't know what has happened, but it's gone. I haven't seen a good ad in a long time now, but
well, when the world awaits John Lewis,
exactly,
and like John Lewis ads are, you know, some of them are okay and quite nice, but like when you have Levi's popping out, and you had everywhere you looked there were proper ads that were brilliant and engaging and made you cry.
Well,
and laugh.
I saw an ad a few months back for Audi, and I nearly shed a tear. It was good. It was the clowns, bringing the clowns, and I thought, oh my god, a good ad finally. Maybe we're on the turn, but I don't think we are. I don't think advertising can ever.
But I just got really disillusioned with it, and
I think we all do. I think anybody who works in advertising tends to get. You do, and I used to when I was younger. And I was so hungry and so excited about it all, and excited to be there and doing stuff. And you'd look at these older guys in their 40s and 50s, and they seemed so jaded and seemed so, you know, and you go, why do you not love this? And then you realise when you get there, you get to your 40s and you go, oh, right, okay. So you see the same ideas coming round and round, and you see everybody thinking that they've come up with the idea for the first time ever.
But I have wider macro issues on the integrity and ethics.
Like you do, you develop that as you get older. But at the time, it was just the joy to actually be paid to come up with ideas, to draw pictures, to write things, to write funny. You know, I suppose in some ways, when I'm having an optimistic moment, I think maybe that's a good thing about now. Is that I used to think you had to earn people's attention, and a lot of advertising wasn't doing that. It was just slamming them over the head. It was saying, if we buy enough spots, you will buy our washing powder, you will do whatever we ask, because we're going to bombard you every
Procter and Gamble approach to marketing.
Every break. My belief always was you need to earn people's. You know, you have a chance to tell stories and a chance to make people laugh, show something that just they've never seen before, or do something really entertaining, which is kind of what a lot of the internet does now. We were making content and calling it ads back then, or at least we were trying to. Now it's much harder to just force your way in because everybody skips the stuff. I could never get that far into advertising to be a real proper ad man, you know, to be a real kind of. I was just excited to see something that I'd done up on a 48 sheet. You're so excited to see your first press ad. And you open the paper and you go, oh my god, that's something I did there.
I still have it somewhere. Yeah. Some 8-inch Dublin for weather glaze Anglian or something.
And it's like, right, what's next? And you go, oh my god, first 48 sheet. And then it's the TV. TV's the big one. You get your first TV and you hope that it doesn't embarrass you for the rest of your life.
I have a few of those in the closet.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So then you're working. Tell me about the dream of making film. Where did that
I think a lot of us have that. Anybody who works in ads, in advertising, tends to have that, and quite often it's to do with film. Some are more geared towards novels and things. I've known a few people who have gone. It's quite successful careers as writers, as novelists, or so everybody seems to have another dream. It's like there's only a small core that their dream actually is just advertising.
I also find the reverse. A lot of people in film want to get into advertising, and
it's to pay the bills.
You just both stay where you are because both are shit.
I know. You the grass is always greener, and once you've experienced the film business a bit, you go, my god, it's just as full of red tape and frustration, more frustration because it moves so slowly.
I produced and acted and helped get funding and all that stuff for a movie in 1999. We shot it in Australia in Melbourne, 16mm film, and it was a Heist Gone Wrong picture, which I'm quite proud of, and went to a few film festivals. But I was a close partner with the writer-director. He was an ex-colleague of mine, and for me it got it out of my system. And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy having it. You know, as I said to people, I could have bought a speedboat, but I made a movie instead. It's not that movie. But it just left it bad. I mean, I write as well, and I'm kind of interested in that part of it, but I'm not interested in the politics and the kind of the heartbreak. You made a short film, so tell me about the genesis of it. How did it?
It's like yourself. I'd been writing and learning, trying to and teaching myself to write in a film way. The first thing I ever wrote was about an IRA cell that I thought would be like, you know, the Irish Goodfellas, that type of thing. I wrote it totally without any kind of format or structure. Wrote it and thought, wow, this is brilliant, and you know, I've been writing for ages and it's gone great. And when I printed it out, it was like, came out at 30 pages or something. I was going, that can't be right. That felt like I'd written a movie there. But then over those years, I started to teach myself, you know, on the side, you know, still doing the job, but on the side, I was teaching myself how to get buying all the books. Anybody who says don't read the books, I think they're wrong.
Adventures in the screen trade.
Yeah, exactly. Read
that.
Anything. Yeah. Read everything. Watch everything. Take everything in. That's how we learn everything. We do that since we're babies. You know, people who go, oh, you can't learn movies from reading a book. Well, it doesn't hurt.
No, I was astonished when I started reading those books about the formulaic nature of a screenplay. Was like page 17, something has to happen. And, you know, and it's almost like you need to know all that in order to not do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You need to know what you're zagging away from.
Yeah, exactly. And even when people talk about formula and they talk about it in a pejorative way, you know, when people want to slag it, they say formula, but you could just call it structure. And especially when it comes to Hollywood stuff, people are going, there's a formula. And a lot of the time there is a cheap paint by numbers sort of thing going on. And you get that in theatre, and you get that in novels, you get that in
3 acts.
I mean, I learned about the 3-act structure. I know a lot of people don't cleave to that, you know, they wouldn't, but it suited me. I was able to visualize it in my brain and go, okay, I can get this. It took a long time to get the hang of it. I mean, you know, I was doing that, and I was able to start writing more in the proper structure with the proper typeface, with the 3 acts, the turning points, all that kind of malarkey, and still try to be original and creative with it. And when you're working with directors and stuff on advertising, you're working with them and you're seeing what they're up to and how they're doing things in the film business, and you're going, oh, I want a bit of that. I want that looks so cool. That's really. Working with somebody like Lenny Abrahamson, and who I was just in awe of the way he worked. You know, he was just so, he could bring something totally unique, and you just watch them at their craft, and you watch how they do things, and that's the luxury of what we did as art directors, copywriters. We got to sit and
on the set,
like
with a client who's poking.
What they would maybe tell you is, if you want to do this, start with a short. As I got through my 30s to my late 30s, I was going, right, time is running low here. If I don't do this soon, I'm not going to do it. It's just going to be another pub talk thing that I go, oh yeah, I once so I have to think seriously about short. I kind of waited until I had an idea that I knew would work, and that it was polished enough, because I think a lot of shorts suffer from the script isn't strong enough. It's been ill conceived, or somebody has just wanted to make a short so bad that they take a script that's not ready.
But before we talk about Crush and how you got there, I mean, just stay on that short film thing for the moment. It's a real bugbear of mine. I was in Australia working with Tony Redman, who directed and wrote The Long Lunch, the movie we made. And Australia at the time, we're talking late 90s, early 90s, was awash with short movies. I mean, there was the John Paulson Short Film Festival. My problem, I actually wrote to the Australian Film Board about this, was that they were encouraging people to make short movies, and then people would go and make them, and you know they'd enter into Tropfest. They'd have 2,000 entries, and there'd be 12 shown. And my idea was that before the ad reel rolled in cinemas, you know, for 15 or 10 minutes to show 2 or 3 short films. At least it gives the filmmakers the sort of
that's a good idea.
Thing. Because there's so much short movies. That you're kind of borrowing and stealing, and we'll talk about you made yours on a shoestring, and people are giving their time and everything, and it just doesn't go anywhere. I said to Tony, let's just make a feature because we'll fail quicker. And he went, what? And I said, well, most people fail. You're not going to be the next Steven Spielberg. So we went and made it, and it cost us a shit lot of money. But we were quite happy with it. I mean,
that's brilliant, and I really admire anyone who... For a start, I admire anyone who makes anything.
Or writes one.
Yeah. If you make any film, you have already done something that's worth being proud of, even if it's a stinker, even if it doesn't get any traction, whatever. You should give yourself a pat on the back for ever having done that, because we all talk about doing it, and it's very, very hard to do it. So to create a feature is amazing. It's kind of, and I've seen guys who do that, and they do it on a shoestring. They actually make the full 90 minutes or whatever. And that's what I thought I was going to do straight after the crush, and it just didn't come about.
Well, we talk a bit about that because I want to get back at the screenboard. Let's just go back on topic with Crush. You can see this movie, The Crush. It's on iTunes.
Yes, it's on iTunes officially, or YouTube unofficially.
Yeah, well, no, we don't encourage people watching it on YouTube, but I'll have a link to the iTunes. You explained the plot there, so I don't give it away. Yeah,
it's about just a little boy. It's about 8 years old, and he develops a little crush on his teacher, the very beautiful Miss Purdy. When we first meet him, he has got a little ring. He's got a little plastic ring that he's maybe bought from junk shop or from out of one of those Kinder Surprise or something like that, and he's going to present it to the teacher. So he asks her to marry him, and she's very touched, so cute, all that kind of stuff. She's doing the usual kind of patronising of the of the child, and but he goes away happy. She says, we'll definitely think about that. Pencil it in the diary. We'll probably maybe have to wait a few years to be on the right side of the law.
It was 2015, March the 15th, not recently. That was the date. March the 15th, 2015 was when they were getting married.
They're getting married? Oh, God, I wonder. I must look them up to see if they've...
And it was, as I said at the top, it was Michael's son, Oren, who played...
Well, he's definitely not married to...
No, I was wondering, imagine if he had married the actress.
If he's not married... as far as I know, he's not married to Olga Worley. But you never know. They're very secretive teenagers, so he could be up to anything.
Sorry, I interrupted.
He's... it's... That's funny though, because maybe we should do a sequel where he does. Actually, but he takes it.
So because he was so young, it was shot in 2009. So by the time he was old enough to marry his teacher, it would have been 2000.
Because he put it in a
future diary.
He put it in a 10-year diary, because that's a thing. That's a thing I invented for the film, 10-year diary.
Maybe we should all have a 10-year
exactly,
diary.
A 10-year plan. And so he writes it down.
Could do it,
absolutely. He writes it down and says, right, that's the date I'm marrying Miss Purdy. She's obviously laughed it off, gone and told her boyfriend about it. It's a funny wee story. That'll be gone by tomorrow, I'm sure, but not for our hero. He's very serious about it. But when he runs in to his teacher that weekend, she's coming out of a jeweller's shop with a real thing on her finger. She's got a big diamond sparkler on her finger, so his little heart just breaks in two. You can see it, as Bart Simpson says, if you pause you can see the moment his heart just breaks in two. And the boyfriend comes out of the jeweller's. He's not happy because he's just spent whatever. He's a bit of a bell end. He doesn't seem to... Played by the brilliant Rory Keenan, who's popping up all over the place. He's Peaky Blinders and whatnot. He gives good bell ends. For want of a better phrase. But he's not happy. He clearly doesn't want to be married. He clearly doesn't want to be engaged. He clearly doesn't want to be spending all this money on a ring. He just wants to go home and watch football. Whereas little Ardle, 8-year-old Ardle, he's the real deal. He's in love. So he challenges the boyfriend to a duel.
With pistols.
Pistols at dawn, sir. And the boyfriend is highly amused by this. He thinks this is great crack. This is so funny. And he's going to go and see what the score is with his child. And I'll just leave it that he doesn't know the child's father is a cop, an armed cop.
Go and have a look at it and search it out. It's a great film. It was made... I was doing some research before we sat down today it was shot by your brother, who's a film cameraman.
He's a BBC.
There was lots of craze.
Yeah, there's craze everywhere,
So you brought it in for a very... I mean, you did a Rodriguez. You went and shot it over 3 days.
Yeah,
Skerries and a Dublin school. And...
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things. Now, you try to make sure everybody gets paid, or people get paid something. I had money that I'd saved myself. I had this in my head that I've one chance at this.
Yeah.
One chance I'll use my money, and hopefully it turns out okay. I also went... Back in the days when I could get a bank loan, I got a bank loan.
To make a movie.
Back in the days when...
It was the Celtic Tiger. Sure.
Back in the days when my credit score wasn't 3. But at the time I was alright. I had a bit of money myself. I went, got a bank loan. My dad put in a few quid as well, God rest him. And we had enough to get it going. I said... I didn't approach the film board because me being me, my timings were all off. Like, I'd left things too late, and I think during that year the film board were looking for quite specific brief. It was musical shorts in that year. We were able to pull it together. It became a bit of a millstone around my neck. I didn't know I was going to get made. Well, yeah, I didn't know I was going to get made redundant the year after that. I didn't know the whole world was going to collapse. Yeah. I would not recommend anybody uses their own money or get themselves into serious debt, because it will last forever.
Really? Okay. When you had the film in the can and edited and ready to, I guess, market or whatever you do, whatever your plan was. Did you know you had something good, or did you just feel it was... No,
I never know that. I'm very much people's reactions type of... I'm not one of those confident artists that sort of... This is the best thing I've done.
I don't think anyone
I'm going to gift this to the world. Yeah, it's...
To the nation.
Yeah, to the nation. This is my gift to you. No, I have to get so many opinions, and I have to collate them. Opinions of family, opinions of some of the directors that I'd worked, like Lenny was able to give me great steers on certain things, and they watch it. You don't have to take everything on board. You just you kind of cross reference. Okay, everybody's saying that bit shit, so I think we should lose it. When I saw the first rough cut, the first assembly, I was kind of a bit terrified. It just wasn't working. It was like and my son's, because he was so young and he wasn't a real actor, it could seem stilted. Mm-hmm. Now, I hadn't minded that initially, because that's part of... I was looking for a very deadpan kind of approach. It just wasn't working. You know the way in advertising things, we're always cutting down. It's always
ram it into 30 seconds.
minimize, cut the flab off. That's always like a positive with us. That's this was the opposite. This was like, we had, exactly, with this sort of 12-minute cut, and it was going like that, but it didn't feel right. It felt, as you say, it wasn't breathing. So we started to let things out a bit, let expressions kind of linger, and then edit around his performance, because the bits that, there's bits that are so real and intense from him that are great, and or you take bits that weren't actually performance, they were just him on set reacting to something, and you throw that in, and you end up cutting his performance from many shots. The experienced actors, you've no problem with, they just get it right every time. But once we'd done that, then it started to feel much better, and I'm going, okay, I'm not as sick with fear about this anymore. It's starting to look a lot better. Once all those layers, the polish gets and big on sound has to be just...
Well, I heard a great quote, which was from again one of those teachers from the screen trade. He said, "If your sound isn't right, people will look at it and say it's badly shot."
Yep, exactly. You can get
the same problem with this podcast.
Yeah, you can get away with poor pictures if you have good sound, because people think that's a stylistic choice. You can't get away with great pictures and bad sound, because people think it's cheap. So we spent a long time getting the sound right. Great stuff. And once all those layers were on, and the final grade and stuff, and Dave Garrity's music, just go, okay, this isn't bad. This might be all right. But I still wasn't sure. I tried entering various festivals, international ones, Sundance, all the rest. It wasn't happening. It got into Kerry. It premiered in Kerry. I just assumed that'll be it. It'll stay in Ireland. It's not going to travel.
So just to take pause before the fireworks begin. You're a 35-year-old first-time filmmaker, shoestring budget, cast of about 6 or 7, edited, put together, entering into film festivals, and what then Tribeca happened, was it?
Tribeca was the first. I got that call from New York saying we'd like to show your film in Tribeca, and that was, oh my god, that was delightful. That was so exciting. I thought.
And did they include like tickets for
Robert De Niro's?
Yeah.
The film festivals, you don't tend to be. I think you do get tickets for your own showing. I think there's stuff like that, and there's. Tribeca was great.
Did you meet Robert De Niro?
No, he was up on the stage, so he's about 20 feet away. Okay. I just can't approach people. I can't approach people and go, I'm very shy, I love you. Can you sign me?
You do a selfie?
Yeah, selfie. I just can't. I don't have that. I'd love to, but I can't.
How exciting!
Yeah, it was great.
And
then it got
as well, like that,
and it got a special recommendation there. Okay. So now that didn't qualify it for anything, but it was still lovely. It was a great thing to just experience. It was actually my first time in America, so it was a whole new journey.
But also from a 5-year process of wanting to do this, procrastinating, kicking yourself up the ass to say I've got to get it done or it's not going to happen, writing it, getting it made, getting it done, getting all the input from whoever you could, and then launching it and it just getting this recognition just must have been a beautiful. I mean, forget about what happened after Tribeca, but that was just a lovely.
Yeah, no, that was that was when the gate opened. That was like okay, and I didn't feel as worried about it anymore. I thought even if that's where it stops, that's pretty good.
A segue away from that. I mean, it's hilarious the way you have people who decide whether it's any good or not. Is that art any good? Is that movie any good? I mean, we can tell a shit movie.
Yeah.
And we can tell probably a brilliant movie. We're, as I said, Oscars this week we have. I thought Lady Bird was absolutely rubbish.
Right.
Saoirse Ronan, the Irish actress, is 27 playing a 17-year-old, and that logs in my head from the moment she appears on screen. And
take shit of it. Yeah.
Frances McDormand is a genius, and she's beautiful in that movie. But Martin McDonagh, an Irish director. A beautiful story, and but starts losing its way a little bit towards the third act, as we call it. The idea of his movie's been accepted by Tribeca.
Yeah.
Oh, it must be really good. There's that.
Yeah, that does seem to be the way the world works. Once somebody else has given their approval, somebody that seems then we'll respect that opinion and we'll.
There's probably a long line of bellends in Ireland. Who rejected it. Robert De Niro likes it. I suppose. So we move on to the. So again, we're just to reiterate. I have an Oscar nominee in the room on Oscar week. Tell me then about the whole Oscar experience.
I've just been reading Hellraisers, Peter O'Toole, Ollie Reed, and they say every time they're asked about the past, they can't remember any of it. It's good because they were pissed the whole time. They were absolutely pickled the whole time. I wasn't. I don't know. When I'm asked, I kind of go blank and go, what did actually happen? But it was such a weird blur.
I like the story you told before when I was doing some research that you were in a coffee shop and you heard it off the news, and then suddenly your phone starts going. Yeah,
that's exactly what
like a movie itself.
What was the Noms Day? And I was saying to my girlfriend Ruth, do you remember this time 7 years ago, whatever? We're sitting in Crawfordsburn, hiding in a cafe. Oh, we just went off for a walk in the forest, and because I didn't want to be sitting in front of a TV like a numpty, kind of going. And then, oh no, I didn't hear it. My first hearing of it was a phone call. It was a phone call from a reporter, BBC or something like that. The phone went and said, you've been nominated, and that was it.
Did you know that you might be nominated? Because it's usually a long list, right? Where you
I was in the 10. I knew I was in the 10.
Okay, which was great as well.
Absolutely. I thought that was it. I thought you don't go any further than that. It was kind of wrecking my nerves as well. I was going like, where does this go?
We only have about 25 or 30 Oscars from Ireland. There's one guy from the 20s who won 11. He was a set
Sure, it was easy to make films back then.
No, he was a set dresser for Chaplin or something. And of course, Daniel Day-Lewis has won 3 Best Actors, and he is Irish. In fact, one of my friends, Graham Keyes, who you might know, had a great joke which said most women spend their life hoping to marry a guy who looks like Danny DayLewis and end up marrying a guy who looks like Danny DeVito. Thank you for that, Graham. But and Brenda Fricker's won one.
Yeah.
But we rarely, the whole country turned itself upside down when
Yeah.
we have an Oscar nominee. I'm sure that happened for you as well, didn't
Yeah, it was that particular year. I was the only one. There was quite a lot of focus, and it freaked me out a bit. I don't think I reacted to it the way you would expect, or that people are supposed to.
You're a humble guy. You're not a guy who goes, oh yeah, of course I expected this to happen.
I'm not even. I don't even know if it was that, or it was just sheer fear. Just the phone. I was starting to silence the phone. And just curl up in bed. I was going because I had other things going on in my life at the time. In separation and stuff. Other things that were very intense in life, and suddenly the phone was just constantly ringing, reporters and whatnot. I did freak a bit, and I remember my brother Liam, who is a journalist, he says, do this now, enjoy it, not enjoy it, but use it, because it'll be gone as soon as it ends. It dissolves very quickly. I knew what he was talking about, but I didn't really take the advice. The number of times I just ignored phone calls and ignored requests for interviews, and because I was just.
But you can also position yourself as elusive.
That's what it was. Totally. I think if I do it now, I'll do it now. I'll be totally say yes to everything. Yeah, come back. But at the time, it was very surreal and very. I'm not saying it was bad. Instead, it was great as well. Like it was. There's so many things about it that were just great that you still find hard to believe were part of your life.
Young fella must have been.
Yeah, he was.
A great thing for my dad to have done.
Yeah, well, and for him to have done, because he was, he was there, and as we took.
But it's a great father-son thing, and family thing. Yeah. Jump now to the night itself. You've got over. Someone's kindly agreed to pay your fares, which was nice of them, whoever that was.
Yeah, that was Culture Ireland.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have to go to them, or did they come to you?
No, they. As far as I remember, they came to me.
I took time to watch the God of Love movie, which is a sort of Jeff Goldblum like bell end sticking his prickly finger all over New York. That beat you.
Get off the fence.
Yeah, that beat you, and that was a student picture. It was a very good student picture, I think. Right? Had you seen your competition, and were you? Tell me what it was like, just that moment when they start calling out your name, and I presume you're up on a 4-box square.
Actually, no, I don't think we were. I don't think there was. Okay. I think the movie was on a box, okay. So thankfully there was no look happy, because.
But tell me about that rising and then falling, sort of as they opened the envelope. What was that like? Can you remember?
Again, my feeling wasn't what you would expect. I was not there going, please win, please be me. For so many reasons, I was like,
really?
I was almost in the other direction, going, what the fuck? If this actually is a win, what the hell?
Okay, now looking back, would you like to have won? Looking back,
looking back, no, really? not that. I would like to win someday, right. But at the time, no, I'm happy enough. I'm happy enough with the way it planned. Maybe I was just very stressed out at the time. Maybe I was I didn't feel worthy of it either. I'm very careful about how I word this, because you're very careful about trying not to look like you're being the worst fake modest crap, which is one of the most annoying traits that people can have. It's not a fake modesty thing. It's a kind of, I don't think I'm actually worthy of getting this right now at this. I haven't kind of done enough. It's great to be here. It's great to be nominated, and if it happens, great. Yeah. So then I'll be. But again, it struck so much fear into me, the idea of it, that I almost breathed a sigh of relief once it wasn't me, and I was kind of like, okay, drink now, can go and have a little drink.
I think I would have been absolutely devastated.
Really?
To have got that far and not won. I mean, I'm not going to try and be fakely modest. I just think it would be. It's like the. I can understand how you've just gone. Your first thing has gone there. That would have been very dangerous for someone like me, who's probably got an ego that needs tamping down all the time. but the idea that you get to the apex and you go, fuck, I've done it, you know.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, that's a really fascinating thing. I never would have thought. So you came back to Ireland, like all our football teams who don't win anything, a hero, right? Kind of.
Yeah, no, it was very good. It was extremely good natured. People were genuinely happy for us, and they were very kind, very supportive, and people who interviewed you were always very positive, and that side of it was great.
And talk to me about what's happened, since your nomination. Martin McDonagh won a short film for Shooter, Benjamin Cleary for Stutterer. So, you know, we've had success since. What has happened to your film career since?
Not an awful lot. not as much as I would have hoped. It's a mixture of, again, trying to basically survive financially, you know, since redundancy and since things just kind of... Basically, life happens, and you have other things. There's always creative stuff going on the side. You know, I'm writing I was commissioned to write a screenplay for a few guys that have a nice story that they want to tell about. It's a historical story set in the 50s. You're
doing something on the famine, were you?
That was one of my first screenplays way back before I even did The Crush. That was one of the first ones I wrote properly.
We need a good famine film.
Well, Lance Staley has beat me to it. Now he's bringing out Black 49, is it? 47? Black 47?
I actually read one last year for someone.
Right.
Rubbish.
Well, I've had this one for a long time, so I'd say if I look back on it, I'd be wanting to do a substantial rewrite on it. No, it's always been something that's been very...
Is it deflating that the stepping stone, and boy, what a stepping stone, didn't deliver?
And it's and you get people saying that as well. You know, people who should know better, family, they would go, you know, it didn't really do much for you, did it? You know, family don't pull their punches. It's Jesus, where did that get you? That was pointless. Jesus, everything went tits up since then. You lost your job. You lost your job. So much for your Oscar nomination.
Just stayed in shipbuilding.
God shite you. See, that's what happens. You get ideas above your station. But but you know, it takes time, and you know, it does happen if you stick with it. Like,
is the dream to have your own feature film that you do?
I really want to do a feature. I'd love
written
to
and directed,
written and directed. Right. I'd like that would be. But I've decided, and I'd said for years, I'm not doing another short. I can't do another short. I just don't know have the time. But I did decide this year to do another short. I'm doing one in April. 9 years later, doing another one. Went to the Kerry Film Festival last year. I was invited down by Maeve McGrath to do a little sort of session, little talk, and I was kind of very aware that I'm still dining out on this thing from 7 years ago, and I feel like I haven't done anything. I haven't, there's been lots in the background and writing screenplays and whatever, but I haven't done anything. And I kind of made the decision there and then, walking down the street in Killarney, I'm going to do something. I'm coming back here next year with something.
And what's it about?
It's about a couple in their 60s, and it's their Ruby wedding anniversary, and the husband buys the wife, who's called Ruby, and the film's called Ruby. He buys her an anniversary gift that's a bit odd. It's not what she was expecting, but then this is his form. He kind of spends his life trying to impress her and do things that are out there and be generally, and it's exhausting for her. But so we've a cast, and we have a good cast in place, and hopefully we've got my brother again. It's even more craze on it this time.
Excellent. So family movie making.
Family movie making.
Last question for you: what would you say to a young kid who's listening to this and who was saying, "I want to try and get into the writing, movie, advertising business"? I'd say,
just make stuff. You're living in the best time ever. It doesn't look like it from our point of view because we've had so many knocks, and the businesses we were in have had so many knocks. But in terms of getting your hands on technology and in terms of being able to do the things, it's never been a better time. Pick up your iPhone, pick up your Samsung, get a wee tripod for it or a Mobi grip or something. Do anything. Just keep coming up with ideas, write scripts, learn to write scripts, read books, take in as much information. You can learn anything now from the internet. You can go on YouTube and learn. I learned how to wallpaper this year just by watching YouTube videos. There's great things like Film Riot, or a YouTube channel. Loads and loads of great things that they there's so much that you can just absorb like a sponge. You could spend your day just watching YouTube videos and reading as many books about it as you can lay your hands on, and do it. Just go and do it. Get out.
From certainly from a writing point of view, I look back at my writing and you rush to finish. It's like a 30-page thing you said. You send it out when it's not ready to be sent out, and it comes back decimated because it's crap. My feeling on it is the curtain opens, write what you see, and make sure you have the end before you start gabbing on about the fact that you've got a movie.
Yeah.
Michael Creagh, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for taking
Thank you
time
very much.
to be
Enjoyed
on
it.
Pint with Seaniebee. Looking forward to seeing Ruby later
Yes.
at our Christmas drinks, maybe.
Hope
Look
so.
after yourself, and I hope all goes well.
Thank you very much.